has one of those faces you may be familiar with, but you're not quite sure why. That's because you've probably seen Paul Hogan hundreds of times on television commercials, singing the praises of Australian beer. Now the man who is one of Australia's most popular talk show hosts is coming to Canada in his feature film debut. Paul Hogan is a former high steel worker whose tourism ads have lured thousands of vacationers down under. In another series of TV ads, he's managed to turn his country's well-deserved reputation for enjoying its beer into a witty send-up of Australian stereotypes.
Of course, back home, our favourite sport is shark wrestling.
Shark wrestling?
Nothing better than sitting down to a few rounds of man versus hungry white pointer. With a drop of the amber nectar, Foster's.
White pointer?
Yeah. Of course, the hard part is getting the sharks into those tight little wrestling shorts.
His first full-length movie is opening this month, after having its North American premiere at the Montreal Film Festival. Crocodile Dundee is a project Hogan dreamed up with a producer of his nightly current affairs program on Australian television. The film is already the year's biggest hit back home. Believe it or not, 1/3 of Australia has seen it. In it, Hogan plays an adventurer from the outback who finds the urban jungle of Manhattan just as challenging as the wilds of the Northern Territories.
Nick, give him your wallet.
What for?
He's got a knife.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
What we have here is a basic love story about a sophisticated New Yorker who falls for Hogan's character, Crocodile Dundee. Critics have called the plot appealing, mainly because of the naive charm of Dundee in his first trip to the big city.
Big Dundee from Australia. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I think from good. What is this guy? This guy in town for a couple of days. Probably see you around.
And with me now, Paul Hogan, Mr. Australia. Do you mind being called that? I mean, you really are.
Whether I like it or not, I'm a walking ambassador, like a human kangaroo, I guess.
But what do you mean whether you like it or not? I mean, I thought you did like it.
Well, yeah, but you don't set out and seek yourself a title, or you don't say, I want to be representing my country. But Australians aren't, you know, how many Australians do you know? They're not that high profile around the world since they stopped being good tennis players.
So that you took on the role, or well, you were given it?
I'm sort of the only Australian that's known around the world, I think.
But it's really strange how you got into showbiz. You really were a steel worker.
I was a rigger.
A rigger.
It's high steel erection. You put the steel up for buildings, and then when you get to the top, you move on to another high building because that's where the money is.
So that's how you got this hard body.
Yeah, and no brains.
But how'd you get into showbiz?
I went on a talent show to send it up because it was very pretentious, and it was a very cruel show. Brackets professional entertainers used to sit on a little panel and humiliate amateur entertainers. And I just had the feeling that it was time one of the Christians killed one of the lions. So I went on as a tap dancing knife thrower who could neither tap dance nor throw knives, and just turned the tables on the panel. Started to tell the professional entertainers what's wrong with the way they're doing their gig. And it must have been just the right time. I think everyone in the country wanted someone to do that. I did it at the right time, without trying to get into show business or be funny. I mean, I was serious. Just went from there.
And it did snowball. I mean, you ended up hosting a show like this, a current affairs show, and doing specials, and then doing the Australia tourism ads for the States, which boosted tourism immeasurably, and the Foster's Lager ads, which we've seen, which are wonderful. Do you write those too?
Yes. I sort of write nearly everything that comes out of my mouth, and sometimes with other people, like the ads usually with a writer from an agency.
So you were just like waiting to be discovered. I mean, you had all this ability and talent there, obviously. I mean, you're not just performing all this stuff.
No, I had my own way of thinking about things, and what I didn't know was that a lot of people in the world shared that sense of humour or attitude. So I just got up and did it and became an overnight star, a flash in the pan. But I've been flashing in the pan for, 13 years now.
But was it strange in Australia for you to become such a star? You've got a real Aussie accent, but I always thought that on Australian broadcasting, sometimes they covered that over.
Oh, we used to
you have your own complexes as Canadians have.
Everyone on radio spoke with an American accent, and everyone on television spoke with what they thought was a BBC accent. So I just got up and spoke. And ridiculous as it sounds, I was a one out in Australia, because I was an Australian speaking my native tongue. But it's changed now. I mean, the Prime Minister speaks like I do, otherwise he doesn't get elected.
But and also in the commercials, I mean, whatever people thought about Australia, or Australian men being kind of chauvinist pigs and these Bruces drinking beer and knocking each other over and stuff, you can do that in your commercials and make it really delightful and appealing. You send up what misconceptions or myths people have about it, and yet...
Yeah, well, the chauvinist pig that drinks a lot of beer and then throws it up and is obnoxious is a caricature and exaggerated. But, yeah, we're chauvinists, I guess, generally speaking, and we do like beer, and it's very much it's a party country. But we don't drink it and necessarily start fights and throw up. You know, that's a wrong image.
Just unless you're from the Northern Territories.
Oh, they don't throw up either. They drink a lot of beer in the tropics.
Were you worried because you're so well known in North America from your TV ads that this would throw people off when they saw you as a movie star, that when you brought out Crocodile Dundee, people would just look at it as a full-length feature ad?
No, there was no point sort of worrying or working out what people are going to think or will they accept this or that. You just sit down and say, this will be a good movie, this will entertain people, this will make them feel good, walk out of the theatre with a big smile on their face and do it. And then stick it on and see what happens. If I'd sat down and thought too much, I'd have never have gone onto television as a tap-dancing knife thrower.
Now you're a movie star, and you wrote this.
Yeah. Well, that's the best way. If you're going to be a movie star, write your own, or a film actor, whatever you want to call it. Write your own film, and then you make sure there are no scenes in it that you can't handle.
And you're the hero.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So, but are you like Crocodile Dundee? I mean, is this modelled on anyone you know?
He's got some of my outlooks and my sense of humour, but no, I'm not as weird as he is. I don't live in the Northern Territory. I'm not as naive as he is, and I'm not as charming, I don't think.
No?
No, nobody's that nice.
You don't walk down the streets of Manhattan or Toronto and say, "G'day."
I did. The first time I was in New York, I did a little. It was after going to New York that I went home and wrote that film, actually.
And do you really wrestle crocodiles? Like no scars on your body?
Little ones.
Yeah?
Nobody wrestles big crocodiles, saltwater crocodiles, 20 foot. They can take out a horse or a cow or a human quite easily, and quite often do.
Gee, but what a man. You had a cerebral hemorrhage, what, 8 weeks ago?
Yeah. I never even get headaches, so there's not much happening up here, I don't think. And the blood vessel burst in the back of my head, but I was lucky it bled in a part of the brain I don't use.
What's that? What's it used for?
A large part of it. And it didn't do any damage. You know, I mean, it gave me a rotten headache and put me in the twilight zone for a week, but nothing lasting, and it shouldn't recur. You know, a lot of people require surgery or end up dead or quadriplegic or something, but I, except for laying on a drip and losing weight, having a bad headache, I had no after effects. It's gone now.
Gee.
Won't come back.
Crocodile Dundee. What a man.
He is, I'm not.
Yeah.
I made him up.
Well, it's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.